Have you ever wondered why some people seem to just glide up the ladder, while others, maybe even you, work harder, deliver more, but stay stuck? Well, it's not random, and it's probably not about performance. It's about a set of invisible signals. In this explainer, we're going to give you the map to decode the system that really determines who gets ahead. Okay, so the very first signal we need to decode is a big one. It's a myth most of us buy into. We think promotions are a reward for past performance, right? A pat on the back for a job well done. But the hidden reality? It's completely different. Promotions aren't rewards. They're investments. They're a bet the organization is placing on your future value. Getting this one distinction right changes everything. So here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll tackle the performance myth head on. Then we'll uncover the 3 hidden currencies that really matter. We'll take a look at the game and what goes on in the room where it happens. We'll see the cost of getting this wrong with the invisible high performer. Then we'll talk about the edge, how to decode these signals. And we'll finish with a crucial question: who controls your narrative? All right, let's dive into the signal itself, the performance myth. This is the core belief that if you just do great work, you'll get ahead. But the truth is, in most competitive fields, high performance isn't the prize. It's just the price of admission. It's the ticket that gets you into the game. And the takeaway here, well, it's huge. Think about it. When leaders are deciding who to promote, they're not asking, who deserves a thank you note for last year? They're asking, who can we invest in that will give us the biggest return tomorrow? Who can handle more complexity? Your past reliability, that's just the baseline. It's assumed. What they're really looking for are signals of scalability, your potential to grow. Okay, so if top performance is just the entry fee, what's actually being traded? This brings us to the pattern. See, beyond your raw output, organizations are constantly evaluating you on 3 hidden currencies. These are the signals that really drive advancement. Let's get into them. These 3 hidden currencies are: number 1, perceived potential; number 2, strategic visibility; and number 3, a compelling narrative. Now, you won't find these on any official performance review, but trust me, they are being assessed constantly. Let's break each one down. First up, perceived potential. Now, this isn't about what you can do today. It's about what leaders believe you can do tomorrow. It's their gut feeling, their confidence that you can scale up, think bigger, and manage more complex challenges. And the key word here is perceived. This currency exists entirely in the minds of other people. Second is strategic visibility. Now look, this is not about being the loudest person in the room. It's about being seen and remembered by the right people, the ones who actually control budgets, projects, and promotions. In a world where everyone's attention is scarce, if the decision makers don't know who you are, then when it's time to make a choice, you might as well not exist. And third, you need a compelling narrative. This is the story that makes your work mean something. You can just deliver a project that's just data, or you can deliver the project that unlocked a new market or solved a critical customer pain point. See the difference? The narrative is what frames your actions and turns them into strategic value. Whoever tells the best story wins. Okay, so let's see how this all plays out in the game itself. To make it real, let's imagine we're a fly on the wall in the room where these decisions get made. A talent review, a promotion committee. You have to understand the environment in that room. The leaders in there are busy. They're looking at dozens, maybe hundreds of names. They simply don't have time to dig into the performance spreadsheets for every single person. So what do? They rely on mental shortcuts. Familiar names and simple, powerful stories, they cut right through the noise. And yeah, that gives them a huge, almost unfair advantage. Let's look at 2 candidates. Candidate A, a classic high performer, hits 110% of their target. Great, right? But their visibility is low. They're really only known within their own team, and their narrative is reliable implementer. Now look at candidate B. Slightly lower performance, 105% of target, but they have high visibility from leading a big cross-functional project, and their narrative, future strategic leader. In that room, who gets the promotion? It's almost always candidate B. They represent a clearer, safer, and more compelling investment for the future. And this brings us to the cost, the inevitable consequence for people who don't get these rules. What happens when your whole strategy is just put my head down, do great work, and someone will eventually notice? Well, you become the invisible high performer. Let's be really direct about this. If the people making the decisions aren't aware of you and your work, the quality of that work becomes irrelevant. In the context of that promotion meeting, your amazing performance, it effectively doesn't exist. And even if they somehow have the data in front of them,
Without a narrative, without a story to give it meaning, your accomplishments are just numbers on a spreadsheet. They have no context, no weight, no strategic importance. It really comes down to this. Organizations don't promote spreadsheets. They promote people. And people are understood through stories. The narrative about your value is what carries you forward, not the raw data of your output.
So, what's the edge? What do the people who consistently advance do differently? They're not always better schmoozers or politicians. They are simply better at decoding and managing these invisible signals. Here's the playbook. First, they treat their career like an investment portfolio, not a report card. They're allocating their time and energy not just to doing the work, but to managing their potential, visibility, and narrative. They're incredibly intentional about making sure their best work is seen by people who control opportunity. They actively shape the story about their work, connecting it to the company's biggest goals. And most of all, they get that perception isn't some fluffy distraction from performance, it's a force multiplier that gives their performance real impact.
Okay, understanding these dynamics is one thing. Applying them is where the real work begins. And that brings us to our final section, and a few questions for you to think about for your own career. First and foremost, who controls your narrative right now? Is it you, your boss, your teammates, or is it nobody? Is it just being left to chance? Because if you aren't actively shaping it, you can be sure someone else is, or worse, there's no story about you at all.
Second, what are you actually known for? When your name comes up in a meeting you're not in, what's the one-line story people tell? Is it, oh yeah, the person who always gets their tasks done? Or is it, that's the person we need to solve our next big problem? That difference is everything. And finally, this is the one to really sit with. If all the performance data, all the spreadsheets were suddenly made invisible, and leaders could only make decisions based on what they know about you, your reputation, your visibility, and your story, would you still be on track to advance? Your honest answer to that question reveals just how much you've been relying on the myth and how well you truly understand the game.